Raider Nation, what is good, man? Tonight we're going to be bringing you guys a great show. I'm really excited to get to talk to my guy, Pharoah NFL. All you guys are aware of him. So without further ado, man, we're just going to be talking about the roster. We're going to be talking about some key aspects of a few guys that are currently on the team. And look, we got some things to announce moving forward that I think that you guys will really enjoy. So without further ado, you guys, I'm just going to bring him in and then we'll start addressing the chat and then get into conversation. So without further ado, everybody welcome Pharoah NFL. How you doing, brother?
Good, man. How you been, man? I know I talked to you earlier, but we know we
No,
gotta
yeah. No,
we
yeah.
gotta get through all that.
I'm doing good. We got to talk late, you know what I mean? I didn't get to see how you're doing, how everything's going, and we just kind of hopped in mid conversation. So how's everything going, man? How
Everything's
are
good,
you?
man. I'm ready for the season, man. I know the nation. Salute to the chat, man. Salute to the nation, man. I know everybody's kind of hyped up for the season to start, but uh, we got a lot to talk about. We got a lot
We
to talk
do,
about.
we do. So let's get straight into the chat, man. I don't want to waste any more time. So we got Jeff Roy TV says Raider Nation for life, DC for MVP. Facts. Let's go. Sean Johnson says Raider Ray and Pharoah. Let's do this. Raider Nation for life. Van City says Ray, Pharoah, what's good, gentlemen? I'm out with the family right now, but just wanted to pop in and show some love. If you're still on by the time I get home, I'll pop back in. I appreciate that, brother. Robert Pena says Raider Ray, salute. Sean Johnson, salute. Van City, salute. Man, everybody's chopping it up. JB's in the building. Carlos is in the building. And everybody's continuing to pull up, Raider Nation. So this is going to be a good show. I'm really excited to get to talk to Pharoah. DeMarcus Webb says, what's good, Nation? What's up, Ray? What's up, Pharoah?
Salute, brother. What's good?
Salute to the homie man, the myth, the legend, Raider Ray. I want to go that far, bro. I want to go that far. I'm new to this thing. What's going on, Ray? What's going on, GA? I'm glad that you pulled up, man. I appreciate all of you guys. We already got 23 of you in the building, man. I appreciate it. 23 of you, please go smash that like button. And if you haven't yet, I'm sure you guys, if you're subscribed to me, you're subscribed to my man over here. And if you're not, before you even subscribe to my channel, go over to Pharoah NFL, subscribe to his channel. The dude puts out great content. And you'll see with our conversation tonight, the dude knows what he's talking about. Robert Pena says, Pharoah, what's up? GA says, howdy, chat. Debo says, welcome, guys. Snoop says, salute, Pharoah NFL. Raider
Salute,
says,
man.
Raider Kojo's in the building. Salute, Raider Ray and Pharoah. 8 days to kick off. And yes, thank you for the lead in the conversation. And look, man, we're so close. This entire offseason, all these conversations building up, talking about the roster, talking about the draft, all the hypotheticals that we talked about this whole offseason is leading up to this week. Pharoah, how excited are you for the kickoff this week?
Man, I'm hyped up, man. I'm excited to see everything that we've been talking about, like this whole offseason, as far as from the coaching staff to the players, the acquisitions, the moves, man. I'm hyped up, man. At this point, I mean, I watched preseason, but it was kind of like, you know what, these guys. It was nice to see that they were well coached. They didn't make a whole lot of mistakes. That's a sign of good coaching. And but I'm ready to see the real talent. You know what I mean? No disrespect to the players that played on the field, but I want to see the starters. I want to see how the team gels. It's going to be a new offensive system, both on offense and defense. So, you know, I'm hyped up, man. I'm definitely hyped up.
It's been a long time coming, right? And what a matchup to start off the season, man. We're talking about the Chargers, and look, we'll kind of break the ice a little bit for you guys for a little bit of announcement. Me and Pharoah are going to do a preview show for the Chargers game, something that you guys aren't going to want to miss. I believe we're going to try to aim for Tuesday, this Tuesday coming up prior to the game. And man, we're just going to take a deep dive. We're going to be looking at aspects of how the Raiders can go out there and win, matchup, key advantages. We're just going to be breaking down all things Raiders, all things Chargers, and to bring you guys the best Raiders content possible. And we're really excited about it. We're going to see how it works. Let's see. We still got some people pulling up in the chat, man. We got 32 people in the building. Go over there, smash the likes, and subscribe to Pharoah. Raiderette says, salute Raider Ray, salute Pharoah. GA says, good evening, Pharoah. Bring on that kickoff.
Facts, man.
Facts. Willie Wayne's in the building. Says, salute Raider Ray. Anthony, I'm subscribed to Pharoah NFL, just waiting for brother to put out more content. Well, here he is.
I appreciate that, Anthony, man. That's what I need. That's what I need, man. I appreciate that.
Oh, man.
It's coming
Willie
soon.
Wayne says, sup, Pharoah. Hey, man, we're all busy. Quick question for Pharoah. How many Super Bowls in Oakland and LA? JK.
It's inside joke. I got it wrong one time. I thought that they had more Super Bowls they had like, was it more Super Bowls with LA? But the thing is, it was close. Like they literally the year after, Just forget about it. I mean, I think they had one in Oakland. I thought they had two in Oakland and one in LA, but it was actually two in
Vice
LA
versa.
and one in Oakland. Yeah, but I
Dirty Lowe's in
appreciate
the
that,
building.
Robert, bringing up
Everybody go
old memories.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Dirty Low. Salute Raider Ray, Pharoah, and the nation. Everybody go subscribe to Dirty Low, man. He's a great dude. Had a good conversation with him today as well. All eyes on G's in the building. Salute panel and to the nation. Ruben Ortega. Funny thing about this is my very first subscriber ever. So I love the loyalty that he always pulls up and always reminds the chat that this was the number one guy to first subscribe to me. So I always love Ruben Ortega pulling up in the building, man. We've come such a long way. We're knocking on the door at 1,000. So if any of you guys are not subscribed yet, please subscribe. My goal was by September 11th to hit that 1,000 mark. And I'm going to have to work. I'm going to have to push to make it, but I still believe that we can do it. The Raider Room said, salute, fellas. Keep grinding. Hey, that's what we're going to do.
Yes, sir.
Raphael's in the building. All right, y'all. I try to address everybody, get to everybody, and get their love. We got a lot to talk about tonight, man. So kicking off things with the roster, man, on the offensive side of the football. When it comes to Derek Carr, what are a few things that you're excited about Derek Carr moving forward with this offense?
I mean, I kind of touched on this earlier on Lowe's show. It's literally the chemistry. You know what I
Right.
mean? I think the offensive system and the defensive system is going to take time. Let's be realistic. They're learning a whole brand new offense. You know what I mean? And they're going against teams that's year 4, year 3, year whatever in their offense and defensive schemes. Talent is not the question. It's more of like how long is it going to take to gel. But for me, I just know that I just feel confident that Derek Carr is going to hit the ground running when it comes to his chemistry with the receivers. Like Devontae Adams, I already know he's going to know where he's going to be at on the field. Same thing with Renfro, same thing with Waller. These are guys that he's played with time in and time again. He's played in big games. So I think that's always been a big thing with Derek Carr, his trust in receivers. Like that's always been a big thing. And now you give him his best friend. You give him his best friend, number one receiver in the league. Then you have Renfro, third and Renfro, got it. That guy that's clutch, played huge last year, probably our best receiver last year. And then you have Waller. Obviously, we all know the talent that is Darren Waller. And obviously he has trust in him. They have good chemistry. So I think that's what has me like pretty excited just early on. I know that like I said, I just know the defensive system, offensive system, that's going to take time to gel, but the chemistry that Derek Carr is going to have with the receivers, I think it's going to be special.
So yeah, and I agree with you with the chemistry with the wide receivers.
Appreciate that.
My big question, man, is while DC is going to have the chemistry with the wide receivers just because of the amount of work that he's put in with them, I'm curious to see how that translates with his knowledge of the playbook, if that makes sense. He has the chemistry going on with Devontae and Hunter and Darren, but how does that merge? How does that come together when it comes to picking up a new offensive scheme and moving forward with it? Is it really that easy to transition into that, or is that something that there's going to be early chemistry, but there's still going to be bumps and bruises along as Carr starts to get into that playbook a little bit?
I think there's going to be a little bit of an adjustment period. I think the offense, I'm not as concerned with the offense as I am with the defense, just
Okay.
because the defense doesn't have a lot of room for error just based off the talent. Even though I've kind of been pleasantly surprised by hearing talks of in training camp how the secondary's been going back and forth with the talented receiving core that I just talked about. So that's good to hear. I feel like Nate Hobbs stepping up, it would be huge. You know what I mean? Guys like Rocky Sin and Averett playing well, like has me excited about this team in that secondary and obviously our D line. That's where our bread and butter. Max Crosby and Chandler Jones makes this defense. If we are, a good this year, it's going to be because our front seven. I remember earlier you were talking about is going to be special this year. That has to happen. So I just think that with Derek Carr, I think there's going to be adjustments. There's going to be adjustment period, but like that's part of it. One of the biggest strengths to Derek Carr's game is the mental part, man. Like he's played in so many different offenses. I hear other former players. I think it was former slot receiver from the Patriots was talking about how Derek Carr, like he's been hearing a lot of that. Derek Carr has been he's been really good with this offense. Like he's caught up with this offense playbook, and I'm not surprised. The guy's like he lives, breathes football. So at the end of the day, like I'm not really concerned about Derek Carr and him kind of like getting used to this offense. It's more I've always been concerned more with the chemistry with players because that's something you can't really create. You know what I mean? It just is or not. It is or not. And I think with Derek Carr, I think that's not going to be a problem.
Yeah, that's what I'm intrigued about. Really, talking about the IQ aspect of Derek Carr's game is with there being one person that distributes a football to the enormous amount of weapons, and we'll get into the weapons aspect of it in a little bit, but Derek Carr is going to be the guy distributing the ball to those top weapons. So the entire offseason, Raider Nation's been talking about, hey, you're going to have to double Devontae, you're going to have to double Hunter, you're going to have to double Waller. But when it comes down to it, these defenses aren't going to be able to match up with the Raiders' offense, and I think that's pretty apparent. What they're going to have to do is they're going to have to attack Carr now. They're going to have to really test his IQ, his knowledge of the knowledge of the scheme. They're going to show man coverage, maybe switch it to a cover two. They're going to bring guys up to the line of scrimmage to show heavy blitzes, and guys are going to peel off. I mean, there's going to be a lot of things to mess with the mind of Derek Carr because if you can't guard all the weapons on the outside, you have to get to the guy who's distributing the football to all those weapons.
Facts, 100%. I think that him kind of like Derek Carr is like that's every quarterback's weakness at the end of the day, like pressure. You know what I mean? Like it's always going to be a problem for any quarterback. So I always look had a side eye when people used to bring that up because what quarterback can really withstand pressure? You know, even mobile quarterbacks, if you hit them enough, if you sack them enough, they're going to be affected. Tom Brady, one of the obviously arguably the greatest quarterback of all time. What do they say? His weakness, if you can pressure him with four and man up, man to man defense, you can guard like he can't stop that. You know, we've seen that in the past, like in big games and Super Bowls, you know, where, you know, Tom Brady going against the Giants back in the day and that crazy front four the Giants had back then. So every quarterback, I'm not really concerned about that. That's something that, you know, I'm concerned about our O-line. You know, I'm definitely concerned about our O-line, but like at the end of the day, what I'm really kind of focused on is like, okay, our great players that we picked up, are they going to be making this?
Mm,
Specifically Derek Carr.
mm, mm.
You know what I mean?
So transitioning over into that offensive line, because I think that we're both in agreement on the Derek Carr situation, and I think like in 2016, specifically the big name games, right? The Kansas City Chiefs, when you had the Amari Coopers, the Michael Crabtrees, you kind of had those weapons, right? And the Raiders' offense was pretty dynamic. You've seen those defenses doing a lot of disguise coverages. You really get Derek Carr thinking at the line of scrimmage, maybe get him up to the line, make him check out of a play, and maybe get the Raiders' offense actually into a bad play. Now, I think over the years, Derek Carr has just grown and grown and grown, and the aspect of being able to break down, and that just comes down with experience, right? And Derek Carr's had plenty of it now entering his 9th season, but transitioning into that offensive line that you're talking about, we're going into the season technically with 3 guards. We got Lester Cotton, John Simpson, and Dylan Parham. And outside of that, you could talk about maybe moving Thayer Mumford inside if you had an emergency break glass. Are you comfortable with 3 guards going into week 1, or is there maybe a guy on the practice squad that you're looking for? Me personally, a guy who had a phenomenal preseason is Jordan Meredith. And thankfully, we were able to get him back on the practice squad. And a guy that nobody really wants to talk about, but if you go and assess his game film, played fantastic. He really did do a really good job. One of the highest graded. I'm not big on PFF, but he's one of the highest graded PFF offensive linemen of the entire preseason. So maybe he's a guy that you can activate and go into 4. But how do you feel about the offensive line, the guard situation, the tackle situation? How are you feeling about that?
I mean, I'm just like every Raider fan, to be honest with you. Like at the end of the day, like I'm really concerned about the right side. The fact that like we don't really know, we're not really too confident who we're gonna put out there on an island, basically tackle. I'm kind of not confident in that. And at the same time, like I think this coaching staff, like they value versatilities. So I'm thinking that some of these guys that are playing in other positions, they're gonna be playing guard probably or tackle. But man, like and you know, it makes you think too at the same time, like when they made that trade with Leatherwood, I know Leatherwood trade is in the past and they moved on. It kind of tells you like, man, how bad it was with Leatherwood because he's a guy that played tackle and guard. So why would you trade a guy like that? And our own line, you know, as the question marks are still there, it just tells you a lot about Leatherwood. But we'll see, man. I think Luminor is probably the safe bet at right tackle, to be honest with you. In our guard situation, Lester Cotton, I know there was a lot of hype early on with him. Salute to Docs, man. Appreciate
Salute
you
the
pulling
Docs,
up,
man. I
brother.
appreciate you pulling up, bro.
And yeah, I mean, like Lester Cotton, there, I think the coaching staff like really like believes in him. but we'll see if he's going to be starter week 1. I'm not sure. Maybe a guy like Thayer Mumford, to be honest with you, is a guy that I like too. He played well in stretches in the preseason, but that's the preseason. I don't know if I feel comfortable putting Mumford on at tackle week 1 against Khalil Mack or Joey Bosa. So I could see I'll be more comfortable with Cotton starting at guard, Simpson starting at the other spot. Maybe actually, you know what? I think Watson took the other spot, didn't he? The rookie.
Dylan Parham?
I think he take the last. I think he might have took the last spot. I mean, they're going back and forth. We'll see what the
Yeah.
final lineup is, but
But no, like the right tackle situation specifically, like Alex Leatherwood, that whole situation was crazy because the entire preseason, versatility was preached on this offensive line, right? They moved guys to center, they moved guys to guard, they swung guys out to tackle to get reps, specifically a guy like a Thayer Mumford. And when you look at Alex Leatherwood did not get kicked inside to guard at all. So it tells me really it was right tackle or bust. And for me personally, when I'm breaking down his film, it's not even the lack of development is one aspect of it, but there's something going on in the mind of Alex Leatherwood. He's just not there. The confidence is shot. I know Q Myers came out and said, "Hey, look, we went to the locker room to address these guys," and Alex Leatherwood didn't even acknowledge us. He didn't acknowledge the media. Illuminor even told him, "Hey, you got to go talk to the media," and he left his stuff in the locker and he just left the locker room. So it tells me there's something going on inside this kid's head. And once that confidence is shot, especially at a right tackle position, when you're going up against premier edge rushers week in and week out, if you're a broken, confident player, it's hard to rebuild that. And especially in a win now window for the Raiders, they don't have the time to do that slow process of developing Alex Leatherwood and trying to get his confidence back up. You know what I'm saying? So that situation specifically, I'm okay with Illuminor, right? Illuminor has had a great offseason. He talks about Max Crosby and Chandler Jones pushing him this offseason to become the better player than he's ever expected to be. And he came out openly and said, "Hey, Josh McDaniels hasn't come out and said this, but I feel personally that this is my last shot in the NFL." And compare those two players, bro. The confidence in an Alex Leatherwood and then a Jermaine Illuminor, a guy who's coming out and saying, "Hey, look, this is my last chance," and he's taking advantage of every single rep, compared to a guy who's not even going to address the media. I mean, it speaks a lot, bro. And,
yeah.
and Jermaine Illuminor has looked fantastic at right tackle. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. I really do. And if it gets to that point, which I don't think it's going to, you can always line up a tight end and Foster Moreau out there and use him as a chipper and get a running back involved. There's ways to work around a bad offensive line. Uh, in the Thayer Mumford situation, look, he came out himself in the press conference and said mentally, I was questioning myself if I was actually ready for the next level. And putting a rookie out there going up against Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa, I don't want a kid who's questioning if he thinks he should be here or not. Now, he
Mm.
progressed nicely over the course of the preseason, but even Jermaine Illuminor said, he was like, look, Thayer's biggest enemy is his own mind. If Thayer could get out of his own head, Thayer's going to be a good player. And just when a veteran is coming out and saying that openly, it's not to say that Thayer's a bad talent at all. I like Thayer Mumford, but it's just the state of where these guys are in right now. And right now, moving forward, Jermaine Illuminor is the best option at right tackle.
Nah, I'm with you. I'm with you. You got to go with the veteran, especially week 1 against like that front. You have to. You have to. But yeah, a guy like Mumford. See, the thing with Leatherwood though, you made some good points about how a player can't really play without that confidence at the end of the day. Like especially in a game as physical and crazy as football, like you losing your confidence. I think he went to a good situation with Chicago. They're going to be a little more patient. They're rebuilding over there, and the fact that the Raiders right now we're trying to win. We're trying
Right.
to win now. We got a window to win that Super Bowl. We're trying to win right now, and a guy like Leatherwood is over here hesitating, not knowing what he should do. He's thinking too much. It's not going to work out.
No, yeah. And look, I'm glad that the message that Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels are sending to the organization, right? Regardless if you're a first round talent or a high marketed free agent acquisition, we're going to put the best five out there. And if you're not part of among that best five, or in this case, he's not even in the top 8, they feel. So you move on from him. I mean, you cut the asset and you move on and you look to add talent elsewhere to get by. And I think just Jermaine Illuminor's development is far ahead of where Alex Leatherwood is, and where everybody's wanting Alex Leatherwood to pan out and keep him around and give him an opportunity. You're risking losing football games in doing that, to where you plug in a veteran like Jermaine Illuminor, and I feel like you're kind of protecting Derek Carr a lot more than having Alex Leatherwood in the game. This offensive line is going to be interesting, Vero. It kind of reminds me a little bit of last year. Now I think we are a little bit more established, but it's kind of like finding yourself again, right? These guys are going to have to find who they are, what their identity is, what the best combination of guys are. So I think it's going to be a process to see which of these guys really emerge. But running back room, what do you feel?
I mean, I feel good. I mean, this is the deepest running back room we've had in a while. I think Josh Jacobs is an unsung hero right now. Like no one's really talking about him. He's under the radar. He's in a contract year. I think he's probably going to have the biggest year of his career. I mean, he has to. If he wants to get a next deal, he wants to get a big deal. And I think that he's going to be a big part of this team. Because even like the small sample size that we've seen, like that game that I know it was just one game. I know it was a preseason game, but he looked real good out there.
Oh, he looked real good.
Real good. And then you got all these guys behind him. You got Zamir White. You got I even like the Brenton Brown guy. Like I like him. I could see him being part of the rotation coming in the future. So I think that there's some guys to like. Amir Abdullah played well when he was in there. There's a lot of guys, but at the end of the day, I think Josh Jacobs is going to get the rock. But the fact that we got a lot of depth, I think Josh McDaniel's style is to have a lot of depth back there because he knows it's going to be a long season. Players get hurt. We've seen with Josh Jacobs, he tends to get dinged up, but hopefully maybe they come. Most likely they might come with a more. It's kind of hard to say. You can go by what the Patriots have done in the past by going with the committee type running back role, like you know what I mean, type of deal. But at the same time, like they might be like, you know what, we're not going to sign Josh Jacobs past this year.
Mm-mm.
Why don't we just give him the rock like every
Oh, they're
play?
gonna feed him, bro.
They're gonna feed him. You know what
They're
I
gonna
mean?
feed him.
Because they know they're not gonna keep this guy. Like you might as well. What are you saving him for? You know what I mean? I mean the playoffs, obviously playoffs, but at the end of the day, they have 5 running backs. So I feel good about the running back room.
Yeah, it's a situation where I could see early on in the season, Josh is going to get a heavy workload. Maybe as you start moving into those mid-season games, maybe Zamir White's workload, Britton Brown's workload when it comes to power gap running increases and those guys get a little bit more reps. But then as those winter games come, as that weather starts to get into the low temperatures, you're going to see Josh Jacobs increase again, and you're going to try to keep him as healthy as possible, especially making a playoff run. Josh is just going to, man, we kind of talked about it earlier. Josh is going to experience so much more lighter boxes this season, which is just going to do nothing but benefit him. I believe in the red zone, Josh is going to get a lot more carries, I think his red zone efficiency is going to jump this season. All these people saying that Josh Jacobs is going to have a down year just because there's a multitude of guys in the running back room. I don't necessarily have to believe that because I think that they're going to give this guy enough touches to where, look, there's a 17-game season. You average 50 yards a game, you're eclipsing 1,000 yards. So it's not going to be hard for Josh Jacobs to have 1,000-yard season if he can stay healthy. Especially even if you divide up those carries, it's still a capable target for Josh Jacobs. You get guys like Amir Abdullah and Brandon Bolden. They're going to be your receiving options. So it's more like, look, how much are we going to be utilizing the running back? If Josh Jacobs is going to be running the football majority of the time, then you're dispersing Brandon Bolden and Amir Abdullah out there to catch the rock a few times. I don't think Zamir and Britton Brown are going to get a ton of carries early on in the season, which is okay because the amount of weapons that you also have on the outside. And you said something about Britton Brown, which leads me into, I'm going to kind of transition over us into the wide receiver room because I think that there's some questions. And I'm going to address this to the chat, man. There's 44 of you guys. Go smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. Head over to Pharoah NFL and subscribe. I seen some people say that they're going over there and subscribing to him. So that is
Appreciate
awesome. So with us keeping Britton Brown, right, keeping 5 running backs, we had to make some changes on the other aspects of the roster. Specifically, you go over to the wide receiver room, and let's be honest, we made some moves that I want to bring to your attention. So Demarcus Robinson obviously is among one of the first players to get cut, goes on to Baltimore Ravens, posts 130 yards, a touchdown, could have had 2 touchdowns, really looked really good over there in Baltimore. Keelan Cole, a guy who a lot of people thought was going to stick around on the roster, a good route runner, really good at the top of his routes, pretty solid hands, overall a pretty good football player who's had success in the NFL. But you keep a guy like Britton Brown and you cut those 2 veteran wide receivers. Is this wide receiver room less dynamic than what it was the beginning of this offseason? Losing a guy like Demarcus Robinson, losing a Keelan Cole, and keeping a guy like Matt Collins, who for me personally, I don't know about you, for me personally, Matt Collins doesn't move the needle that much for me. I don't. He's a red zone target. I agree with that. He had 290 some yards from Miami and 2 touchdowns. What can he bring to this offense that's that dynamic that the other guys couldn't really bring? That's to be seen. But look, Matt Collins has to show up because Demarcus Robinson and Keelan Cole are still some two good football players.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say they're less dynamic. I think what happened is that the players that made the team, they played well, and at the end of the day, they also contribute to the team in multiple ways. Matt Collins, when he first got brought in, one of the biggest things about him is the fact that he can contribute to special teams. And so far, since he's been on this team, he's been a good locker room guy. He's caught on to that offense. He's one of, like they said, that he caught on to the offense real quick. And at that point, he developed chemistry with Derek Carr, and the rest is history. At the end of the day, the coaching staff is going to have to make a decision, and they're going to try to put the best players on the field, and they feel like Matt Collins is a good red zone target, a big guy. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, he's just going to have to catch wide open. I'm not saying that he's going to dominate out there, but all he has to do is really catch like wide open, passes, because that's the type of plays he's going to get. Because at the end of the day, who's going to be getting the ball? We're going to be relying on Renfro, Waller, and Devontae Adams. That's three receiving options. And on top of that, you could add Moreau in there and everybody else pretty much. I think that with the receiving core, I think it's a nice combination of size, speed, and special teams ability, if you really think about it.
Yeah, and no, I agree with that. But then at the same time, I got to bring up okay, if I'm the GM and I'm sitting down and I'm keeping 5 wideouts, right? Me personally, my taste, I would like to see them keep 6. Between Keelan Cole and Demarcus Robinson, look, I understand Demarcus Robinson wasn't doing too much in the preseason, but when I'm looking at the roster, I would have liked to keep a guy like a Keelan Cole or a Demarcus Robinson and maybe put a Britton Brown protected practice squad type of guy, especially with the amount of running backs you're going to have, given Josh Jacobs the amount of carries that we're expecting him to get. If something were to happen to one of these wide receivers, say, Hunter Renfrow goes down, Devontae were to go down for a few weeks, can I rely on a guy like Matt Collins to step in and solidify that number 2 spot? And for me personally, he just hasn't proven that over the course of the NFL. A guy like Demarcus Robinson has filled in a situation like that before. Not to say that he is a true number 2, because I don't necessarily believe that he is, but he's been in those situations before. And I thought that would have been good to have as a reserve on your roster. And even a guy, like a Keelan Cole. So when it comes to the wide receiver room, I really like DJ Turner. I really love what he showed this preseason. I love his punt return abilities. Like you said, when it comes to special teams, Tyron Johnson, I've been big on T. Billy this whole offseason. We already know that. To me, I do feel it's a little bit less dynamic. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about big, splashy, sexy numbers. I'm not talking about anything like that. I'm just talking about specific skill set matchups. I felt like Demarcus Robinson gave you that opportunity to, when you're going up against these good defenses, these aggressive style defenses that can cover, I feel like Demarcus Robinson could just take advantage of some of those matchups that you get on a Sunday. Maybe you're going up against a young player or a practice squad corner due to injury, and he could kind of exploit that and take over that game when everything else was going wrong. So to me, in my opinion, I do think it got a little bit less dynamic, and I think Matt Collins has something to prove.
No, definitely. He definitely has something to prove, but I'm not really. I'm not. We're kind of like nitpicking, because at the end of the day, like,
for sure.
Because at the end of the day, like, if Matt Collins is someone that we have to rely on, season has went terribly wrong, because at the end of the day, like I said, there's a pecking order when it comes to that receiving core, and it's Devontae Adams, Renfro, and obviously add Waller in there. Even though he's a tight end, he's going to be getting some of the rock too. So I just think at the end of the day, like T. Billy, for example, I like the fact that he kind of fills that deep threat role. Whenever they need to, spread the field, that's a guy that can stretch the field. You got kind of have DJ Turner. He's kind of that guy where they can give him some packages, because he's kind of built like a running back, like AKA Debo Samuels. I'm not comparing him to him, but at the same time, like, you guys get what I'm trying to say. He's good after the catch. He
Right.
has a little bit of speed to him. He's faster than his 40 times
Yeah.
suggest.
Yeah.
And Matt Collins, I understand he's a big question mark. DeMarcus Robinson, at the end of the day, like, he was replaceable because his best game was against the Raiders. And every Raider fan remembers that game. I understand. But at the end of the day, he was like the number 4, number 5 receiver for the Chiefs, and he barely got the rock. If you look at his numbers, and I know you said you didn't want to bring up any numbers with him, but I think at the end of the day, like, if he was that good, they wouldn't have cut him.
Mm-hmm.
Simple.
Yeah,
Simple as that.
and I felt like they would. Yeah, obviously they made that cut because I feel like he's a veteran. They were giving him an opportunity to go out and find a home, and him and Kenyon Drake both landed with the Baltimore Ravens, and Demarcus Robinson had a good showing, bro. I mean, he had the opportunity to put up two on him in almost 150 yards. Like, it was pretty
Like you said,
impressive. It was pretty impressive. So, well, let's address the chat and let's get some of their insight. Chat, drop some questions for us before we transition over to the defensive side of the football. We're making great time. There's 50 of you guys in the live stream, so all 50 of you guys, please go smash that like button. Boost
yes,
this up
sir.
the algorithm so we can get more Raider Nation in here and give you guys a good show. So let's see here. We got Nutty Raider Nate. He says, you guys think Carr had a say in who stays at wide receiver? I'll let you address that.
I think so. I mean, to a certain extent. I mean, they got Devontae Adams. You know what? I think it contributes. At the end of the day, the coaching staff and the GM is going to make that call, but they're going to know who Carr has good chemistry with. They're gonna check in with the quarterback, the franchise quarterback. I think so. I think that does make a difference. And a guy like Mac Hollins, like I said, he kind of like embraced the Raiders locker room. The players can't stop talking about him. So you knew that he was not going to go anywhere. You knew that he was not going to go anywhere because the coaching staff believes in him, the players that around him believe in him. But then Demarcus Robinson, you barely heard about him. Like, you really never really heard about Demarcus Robinson. You had a couple of interviews with the media, but you never really heard about Robinson too much. And then he had a couple of catches during the preseason. It was kind of like, were you surprised that he got cut? I wasn't really surprised that he got cut. I thought he was gonna be. I think I said on an earlier show with you, I said that he's probably gonna be one of the surprise cuts. He was cut early. He
Yeah,
was cut
that's
pretty
what
early.
surprised me the most was how
Yeah,
early.
yeah.
But it made sense, giving a veteran the time to go out there and find a new home. But no, I agree with you, bro. I agree with it. It's just I feel like I'm looking a little bit, like I said, we're nitpicking, and that's an awesome thing to be a Raider fan and start nitpicking and not talking about bleeding holes that are on the roster, right? But GA says, I feel McDaniels is paying superstars like superstars and loading the bench with inexpensive but skilled players. And I talked about it earlier about how these next 3 years are going to be crucial for the Raiders organization when it comes to drafting, especially when you go and front load all these contracts. Chandler Jones, Max Crosby, Hunter Renfrow, Derek Carr. You go down the line, Devontae Adams. All these contracts are front loaded for these first initial 3 years. So what does that tell me? The cap space is going to be a little bit low in these next couple of off seasons. Obviously, we're going to get the new TV deal for the NFL, so the cap room is going to go up. So Raiders will still have money to go out there and spend. However, you're going to have to draft really well over the next 3 years. And the good thing about that is you have these superstar players on these 3-year deals who are in the prime of their careers. And now you can load this roster with young talent. That way, when these contracts start to expire, now you can replace these players with good, young, skilled players that have been in the system for not just an off season, but for multiple years and has gotten training camps and understands the playbook, understands the defensive concepts. This is how you build a championship organization. And I know that the Raider Nation hates to hear it, but the Patriots did things a certain way for quite a long time. And that's why they were able to establish a franchise that was consistently competing for championships, is that they just knew how to develop rosters and keep guys young and fresh and constantly interchanging that door. So how do you feel about that?
Yeah, man. I think at the end of the day, like, I'm like I said, I'm excited about the Raiders. Hold on one second.
Yep.
Sorry about that.
Nightmare Cortez says salute Raider Ray. Man, everybody's in the building. Halo Raiders in the building. He says, yo,
Man,
salute fam.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know what I wanted to touch on too is the fact that the Raiders put in 7 claims for players during cuts. 7 claims. And we were number 22 in that pecking order. And that's what I was kind of pulling up. I was trying to see exactly what players they put in a claim for, because that would tell us a lot about what they thought about the roster. And you could tell by, like, some of the players that they're bringing in, like they brought in some O linemen. They had some players try out. They had like I think we were talking about that earlier. We were talking about Reggie Ragland was a guy that they brought in to as a tryout. So they definitely think that they need to upgrade some of the positions on the team. So I'm trying to pull that up here.
No,
Let's
yeah.
see.
And Sean Johnson put something up here. He put up the 2023 draft picks, which we have a total of 12 so far. We have the first, the second, the third, the fourth, which is actually crazy. When you talk about going out and getting into Devontae, in our next draft, we still have the first round, second round draft picks. But what's really intriguing about this, especially with this organization, is those rounds 4, 3 picks in the 5th round, a pick in the 6th, and 4 picks in the 7th. You have a lot of room to go out there and make trades with other organizations, go get depth pieces, make moves around the NFL draft. I'm telling you, Raider Nation, this draft is going to be intriguing, especially when Dave Ziegler and all these scouts have an entire offseason to go out there and assess the college football ranks and go out there and get good guys. So as good as this offseason was, I feel like we're moving forward ahead into just a great time to be a Raider fan.
Facts, 100%, man, 100%. So hold
I
up, let me. I'm trying to pull up like the claims that they put in for players because that's like a good little.
Well, I do know one for a fact. So the Jets released Chuma Edoga, and he was a right tackle, a guy who is in that process, finding himself in the National Football League. But really, he has a lot of good measurable traits. He's young. He's like 25 years old, and he's 6'3", 308 pounds. He was a guy I was keeping my eye on. I didn't think he was going to make it. And I did get word in that the Raiders did put a claim in on him. Unfortunately, we weren't able to land him. So that does tell me that they are going to go. They wanted to at least go out and address the tackle situation with another young prospect that they can kind of slowly develop. So I do know the tackle position was in fact something, and obviously they're bringing in Reggie Ragland, Alec Ogletree, so they're not really sure about that linebacker position. So Blake Martinez is a name to look out for. The Giants just released him this week. You know what I mean? And he's another downhill linebacker, a good run thumper. When you talk about Jayon Brown coming off a significant knee injury, Divine Diablo's a little bit undersized when it comes to linebackers. He's kind of been injured throughout the years. You know what I mean? Still a fantastic football player. And look, when I say all this stuff, it's not that I don't think they're good football players. I'm just going to bring you the facts of the situation. Denzel Perryman has battled injuries over the course of his career. So if those guys start going down, and now you're talking about the Luke Mastersons, the Darian Butlers of the world, me personally, I think that you still go out there and snag up some veteran linebackers, maybe one, maybe two, and maybe stash Masterson and Butler on that practice squad and get some more established guys, and then you can promote those guys when they're ready.
Yeah, they're trying to get another run stopper for sure. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Just like you mentioned, you said there's a lot of undersized guys, and usually I think I see somewhere with Patrick Graham's defense, he usually has like a big linebacker in there, guy at least that's 250 pounds, over 6 feet. So Reggie Ragland for sure would fit that bill. So I can see that signing happening. Blake Martinez, he's good against the run, but I don't think he hits that mark. As far I think he's like two. I think I looked up, he's like 238 pounds or whatever, but I think that would be a nice pickup. The fact that he's familiar with the defense, be easy
Mhm.
plug-in type player. So it makes a whole lot of sense.
Especially if they brought in both of them. I mean, I think Blake Martinez, you're going to have to pay him a
Sure.
little bit. You know what I mean? He's coming off of a
Yeah.
pretty significant injury as well. But it's kind of the story of our linebacker room, right? I mean, a lot of these guys are coming off some injuries. Sean Johnson says, in just an early look, we have 90 million in cap space in 2024, 2 years from now. That's interesting. That's
Fun
actually
fact.
huge. That is huge.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think the
We'll
Raiders will not have the room to be as splashy next offseason. I think the draft will be where the Raiders go out to fill the spots in 2023. Facts. Yeah, we kind of assessed that too, bro. Did we sign any of the guys we brought in for workouts? No, not officially yet. So they're still exploring, right? So
Has anybody? I'm gonna say this to the chat. Has anybody seen the players that the Raiders put in claims? I think they put in 7 claims for players, but they didn't get not one player. Obviously, I don't know if anybody's seen that. Let's see.
also,
Yeah.
so talking about that, what is Tashawn Bower's role moving forward since Cleveland Pharoah? This is something I wanted to talk about, and I'll address it with the chat while Pharoah is looking for these waiver claims. You guys, the stud and the star of the preseason was Tashawn Bower, right? Comes in, gets 4 sacks, you know what I mean? Tackles for losses, really disruptive when it comes to rushing the passer, solid when it comes to run defense grade. So my question is, I mean, you've got Crosby, you've got Chandler Jones, you've got Malcolm Kuntz, who let's be honest, Raider Nation, Malcolm Kuntz is going to have a heck of a season. This guy is in position to get those 6 to 8 sacks season and really come onto the scene for the Raiders as that third pass rusher. There should be no situation on a third down where Jones, Crosby, and Kuntz aren't on the field at the same time. I just feel like that's a recipe for success. But when you're talking about that fourth defensive end, Pharoah and Tashawn Bower, me personally, Bower has earned that right to go out there and get some reps and get some playing time. So you're paying Farrell a hefty $10 million, and you're going to have to get something out of him if you're going to invest that much money into Farrell and not just stash him away as a fifth defensive end. Raider Nation, where do you see Farrell getting majority of his snaps? Maybe on early downs as setting the edge as a run defender. That's where I personally see him at. But look, there's a lot of guys on this roster that, in my opinion, have outworked Farrell.
Yeah, he's gonna have to fight for snaps for sure early on. I remember I said this earlier today. I was like, early on, he's gonna have to like prove to the coaching staff, because at the end of the day, he looked really rusty out there. He didn't really make too many plays. Didn't look like he was, and he admitted it. Like after the game, like he said, he needs to get back into football shape, and obviously being injured, that probably took a lot out of him. But I know you brought up a guy like Tashawn Bowers, man. I liked him, man.
I do too.
He was making plays out there, and that's a great thing for this D line when you have Chandler Jones, Max Crosby, and no one's really been talking about him, Matthew Kuntz, another pass rusher, and then you got Bowers making plays. We'll see how it shakes out during the season as far as how they're going to really put him out there. But I like that Bowers kid, man. He's good against the run, physical player, it seems like.
And along that defensive line, you got a guy like Kendall Vickers. So on the back end, you've got Isaiah Palomal, which I didn't think he should have necessarily made the roster. It was another one of those kind of head scratchers for me. I felt like you could have maybe gone a different direction, but hey, they know better than I do. A guy like Kendall Vickers, you have room on this roster. Luke Masterson, Darian Butler. There's a lot of flexibility, which is why I don't think that this 53-man roster is the finished product. I think there's still a lot of moving parts to come into play here. You can move two of those guys, three of those guys down to the practice squad. Maybe if you bring in another nose tackle or another interior defensive lineman, you can move on from Kendall Vickers, who kind of reminds me of a Danico Autry, if you guys remember him for the Silver and Black. Just a guy who was just kind of disruptive football player. And I could see Kendall Vickers finding a home somewhere and really coming into that.
Autry is the one that got away. He was the one that got away.
He's just a consistently good football player. And Kendall Vickers kind of reminds me of a young Autry. Like when I was watching Autry young in his career, they just kind of remind me of the same kind of playing style. So it wouldn't surprise me if Kendall Vickers a little bit down the road here finds a home with somebody and really emerges as just one of those good, consistent football players. Yeah. Oh, and everybody that's in the chat, man, yeah, I seen GA in Van City said, "Hey, raise 80 away from 1,000 subscribers." So there's 64 of you guys. There's 64 of you guys. If any of you guys are new to this, I would recommend you guys go over there, smash that sub button, smash the like button, man. There's no reason why we shouldn't have 64 likes. Everybody subscribe to Pharoah. Everybody subscribe to Raider Ray. We're just going to consistently pump out good content for Raider Nation.
Appreciate that. Yeah, man. Get this man 1,000, man. I'm trying to get to 1,000 myself, but this guy's exploded onto the scene. But it's well deserved, man. He's been consistent. Go ahead and support everybody in Raider Nation, man, including Raider Way and myself.
Yeah, all content creators, man. Go show love to all of them, man. They all put in work. Pharoah puts in work. I put in work. All your favorite content creators, man. There's a lot of work to be put in. Don't even hesitate, like you're about to say, like you haven't been putting in
work. Man, not lately.
But you're taking time out of your day, man. So. Everybody's always talking about, we need the right tackle. We need another interior defensive line. And with the emerging of Andrew Billings, which I think was huge for the Raiders, it's an under-the-radar guy that nobody wants to really talk about. Andrew Billings really emerged as that nose tag. It was specifically the Viking game prior to the New England game. He didn't even dress for that fourth preseason game because how good he played that third game. Disruptive in the backfield when it came to red zone, just stuffing runs and forcing guys to field goals, creating some pass rush, had a good push-pull counter move. Andrew Billings, man, he's somebody to keep an eye out on. And I think that if Jonathan Hankins and Billings can stay healthy, when you're talking about the interior, which in this defensive front, you need those run cloggers. You need those guys that can fight off double teams to open up gaps for the linebackers to get behind the line of scrimmage and make good tackles. So if those guys can stay healthy, I think the Raiders' run defense will be okay. My big concern is at that linebacker and cornerback position because, like I said, injuries pop up. It's a part of the game, and it's something that you have to plan for, which is why I don't think the Raiders are done bringing in guys at the linebacker room and in the defensive back room, because the starting three lineup I really like. Anthony Averett, Rock Yassin, Nate Hobbs, all really good football players. Nate Hobbs is probably going to emerge and have a breakout season. You alluded to it earlier about the Trayvon Mullen. I'll let you address that here in a minute. And but really, when you're looking at the depth of this defensive back room, like Amik Robertson and Sam Webb, I like what Sam Webb did this preseason. But if something were to happen with Anthony Averett and you're kicking Amik into significant playing reps, it's not a recipe for success for the Raiders front, for the defensive back room. So I think that's an area that the Raiders need to address as the linebacker room and the defensive back room, maybe even a little bit sooner than the defensive tackle. What is your opinion on that? And give us your take about Trayvon Mullen.
I like Andrew Billings. I seen him making plays in preseason. The thing about him, the thing about everybody on that D line, it's kind of like similar to the receiving core, is we kind of have the top end starters already set as far as like, you got Max Crosby on one side, Chandler Jones. You just need to develop those role players on the inside. So I'm not so a guy like Billings playing well is a good sign, because at the end of the day, he's not gonna get as much attention as much as he would if he was that guy, if he was a guy like the guy in the LA Rams. So I'm kind of like, I'm not really as concerned with our D line, just for the fact is that at the end of the day, our best players. Yeah, facts, man.
Facts, bro.
Go get in your troll accounts, man. It's up, man.
Everybody, we need 10 troll accounts and give me up to 1,000, please. And Pharoah.
For sure, man. So, but it's similar to our receiving core, man. The fact that we already have great players on that D line, is everybody else has to just be a role player. You don't have to be a superstar. So Billing stepping up, I'm really big. That's a big thing for us. Nichols needs to show me. I haven't really seen too much of Nichols. He was hurt for most of the preseason, most of the training camp, so that he's kind of like a big question mark. I know they're really projecting him. That's a Champ Kelly guy, so we'll see with him on the interior. Hankins, we know we can get from him. The fact that he's a good run stuffer, but health can be an issue with him. So we'll see how that goes. But as far as the secondary, man, like all I'm in hearing with the secondary all through training camp, and now training camp is completed and preseason is completed, is the fact that they've been going back and forth with our receiving core. And we know how hyped we are with this receiving core is. So the fact that we got guys like Rocky Sin stepping up. He's basically our number one corner now. And then you got Averett playing well. You got Hobbs, where he's going to be rotated inside, outside. He's going to be that guy where they're going to put him wherever. You know what I mean? He's going to be the X factor. And he made, and I talked about this earlier with Ray on Lowe's Live, was the fact that a lot of people have been kind of like, man, like why have we traded? Why did we trade Mullen? Like, why did we trade Mullen? The guy's talented. Why did we keep Amik? This, that, and the third. But at the end of the day, like, Mullen was not a part of this offseason. He was hurt the entire time, and this is a brand new regime, brand new GM, brand new coaching staff at the end of the day. So I think that kind of made him a little bit more expendable, but it made it an easier decision because Nate Hobbs has been stepping up. He's going to be that guy. So it made it an easy decision. I know Amik, I was kind of like hoping, I want him to be good. I want him to be that guy, but Amik, man, when he has to turn it on during game time, man, like he somehow, some way, he got to make a play on the ball. But he won over the coaching staff, so that's why he's still on the team.
I think it's his effort in practice. That's been known about Amik ever since he's been in the NFL. Is the dude practices like a dog, and that sticks with coaching staff because they think of, hey, what can I get this guy into? He's got the work ethic. He's got the desire to become great. Now can I kind of mold his game a little bit? And I think that's what attracts him to coaches. But when you click on the film at LA Tech, the guy was just playing around, just a free roamer, creating turnovers, had 14 interceptions over there in Louisiana. But that's not the same player that the Raiders got when they drafted him. It seems like ever since he came into the league, and look, it's no shot to him. He's had multiple defensive coordinators in his young career. He's having to learn new systems. But my problem with Amik is in coverage, he just thinks too much. He's processing, and he's not just going out there and playing and trusting his instincts, to where if I could get the Amik Robinson that is trusting his gut and just willing to go out there and make a play on the football, I think that Amik is one of those guys that we could be having a completely different conversation about because he does have some skill sets that could translate over, specifically when it comes to run defense and getting after the quarterback and maybe be take his coverage responsibilities and maybe shrink it down a little bit, similar to what they did to Jonathan Abram. And I think less is more for Amik Robinson. But I agree, man. Hey, look, Sean
Facts,
Johnson dropped
100%.
this. Tashawn Bower's preseason 148 snaps, 12 pressures, 4 sacks, 6 QB hits, 8 hurries, 7 run stops, and 2 forced fumbles. Hey, look, you've earned playing time with
Put
numbers
him in the
like that.
damn game, coach. They got to put him in the
Put him
game.
in the game.
Yeah.
Like, you've earned it. At that point, bro, you've earned it. Hey, bro, you're getting some subs, bro. I'm seeing these people say sub to Pharoah as well. These people,
I appreciate it, man.
hey,
I appreciate it.
run those numbers up for him.
But going back to Amik, I think, and I made this point earlier. If Amik's in the game and he's going against a 6'5" receiver, at the end of the day, like that's their coach out coaching our coach. That's not supposed to happen. And the fact that we're talking about Amik is actually a great thing because we're confident about our first 3-4 starters. You know what I mean? That's in the game. So that's actually a good thing. So Amik, if he can make some type of plays, if he can make any play, if they can just use him and he could be a benefit to this team, that's a good thing. Because at the end of the day, he's like what, the fifth corner, fourth
Yeah,
corner. You know what I
yeah.
mean? I know you said that you like Sam Webb over him, just based off how he played so far with the things that you've seen from him, and I like
Yeah,
that he's been making plays, but I don't know really too much about Sam Webb's background. Maybe you can touch on it a little bit.
yeah. Sam Webb is just one of those longer man coverage corner, one of those Patrick Graham kind of guys. And while he let up a few receptions this preseason, he was really good at playing the ball, getting his head turned around. Just those small traits that you're looking for in defensive backs that show you, okay, this kid's got some game to him. Got his hands on a lot of footballs, a lot of tip balls. He just showed the ability to pick up this Patrick Graham defense and at least give you something when it comes to that man cover corner. So I like Sam Webb's coverage abilities far more than I like Amik Robertson. And I see Jack Kenna said Sam Webb play caused that trade, and I would push back on that a little bit. I think Sam Webb had a really good preseason, but I don't think that's ultimately what led to Trayvon Mullen getting moved. I think the emergence of a Rock Ya-Sin, the type of work ethic he has, Nate Hobbs having the offseason that he's had, being that guy that can line up. And really, I mean, Nate Hobbs kicked Trayvon Mullen out of here, if we're going to keep it a buck. Nate Hobbs play, I mean, he's going to be the guy that can travel along the entire inside, outside, and cover the best wide receiver week in and week out. And like I said, Rock Ya-Sin, Anthony Avery, another guy that's interchangeable. He could play outside, then you can kick him over in nickel. He has that 4-3 speed, so he can cover those fast slot. You have versatile pieces in that defensive back room. And I think, like you said, Pharoah, with Trayvon Mullen not being a part of this offseason, they kind of found an identity with the guys that they got used to the entire offseason. And Trayvon Mullen was just like, where do we fit this guy into these plans? So I think that's what ultimately led to him being traded.
Yeah, and another thing too is it's not like Trayvon Mullen he was on a 3-year rookie. You know what I mean? Like he had 3 years left on his rookie contract. He was on his last year of his deal. So they kind of made a shrewd move at the end of the day. Like they knew that they were probably not going to re-sign him. He's probably not going to be. He was probably going to start off late in the season. You know what I mean? He wasn't healthy. He wasn't 100% healthy, and he's probably going to be the fourth or fifth corner. And on top of that, like he did have some cryptic tweets earlier in the offseason. And I'm not sure if he was happy, but I did see that tweet when he got traded to Arizona. He was real excited. He was happy. He a little too excited. You know what I mean? Leaving a team like the Raiders, who I feel like are a contender. You know what I mean?
Right.
I know they got a lot to prove, but they're trying to win a Super Bowl. I appreciate that, Lafayette, man. I appreciate that, brother.
Right. Everybody go over and subscribe. I'll drop it right here too. This is Pharaoh's YouTube name, man. You guys go over there and subscribe to my guy.
Appreciate that.
Uh, but yeah, Raider Nation, drop your questions below. I'm gonna ask you real quick too. Why is it you think Paul Mall made the roster, that forced safety spot? Do you have a take on that at all?
I mean, maybe ego, maybe Dave Ziegler's ego, because he signed pretty much the entire rookie class, and I forgot how many rookie free agents. I don't know if you remember that. I think like it was a good amount. It was a good amount, and the fact that we're cutting, it's almost like they really believe in the players that they brought in. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, like he made some plays, and he didn't really make some plays. I mean, you probably could look at the film and probably say like, all right, he did his job. I think he could be a developmental piece. Abram is on his last year of his deal. He's kind of a question mark. Are they going to bring him back? Most likely not. At the end of the day, so it's more of a depth piece, you know. And I think the
Mm,
coaching staff believes in the young players that they brought in.
mm. No, no, I like it. It makes sense. Again, he's one of those guys that I just feel like dude, everybody else, like we kind of iterated it earlier, everybody else is playing checkers, and it feels like the Raiders are playing a little bit of a game of chess. And these guys on the back ends, the Palomalus, the Matthew Butler, the Luke Mastersons, the Kendall Vickers, even a Britton Brown, those give you names on the active 53-man roster that you can bump down and open up opportunities to go out there and grab some guys. Maybe some veteran guys, some guys who have more experience. Obviously, they're bringing guys in to work out, so they're not done adding to the roster.
That's
So
facts.
I do like what they've done with the 53-man roster, because I know it's coming out as the official 53, but this isn't going to be the team. I don't think, I think that there's going to be some moving and shaking. Do you think that the Raiders add pieces before this week 1, or is it something that you're going to see early on into the season?
That's a great point. That's a great point. The Raiders, Dave Z has been playing chess all offseason. And the fact that they're bringing in players, the fact that they put in 7 claims, on my bad, I can't pull that up right now. But
No,
if it
you're
was in
good.
front of me, we would be going over it. But the fact that they have been doing that tells you that some of the players that they have on the roster probably are not going to be on the roster if they pick up the players that they want. So maybe a guy like the safety that you're referring to, he might be a practice squad candidate when they finally sign a player that they want to add to this team, because they are looking at players. They are bringing in players for tryouts, like a Reggie Ragland, and I think you guys might remember. I think they brought in a corner that they used to play for us back in the day.
Yeah, TJ Carey.
TJ Carey is brought in tryout. I don't know if that's a big move or anything like that at this point of his career, but they're definitely looking to upgrade the roster. And in order to upgrade the roster at 53, someone's going to have to get cut. Someone's going to be put on the practice squad. And a guy like that guy that you mentioned, Powell, I can't pronounce his
Yeah, I
name,
was
but
going to Pal Mall or Pal Mal.
Powell,
I
yeah,
struggle with it too. I
yeah,
say it
man.
quick, so it sounds like I know.
No disrespect, man. I just don't like mispronouncing people's name, but
No, yeah.
that's actually a great point, man. Like a guy like that can easily be put on the practice squad for sure.
No, yeah, I love how this roster in times past, right? You felt like it was locked in, and if you lost names, it was something to worry about, right? In this 53-man roster, it feels like you have flexibility in the option to be fluid with your roster and to actually add upgrades over guys that have actually been on the 53-man. So I thought it was an intriguing game plan by Ziegler and McDaniels. Something like, it's just smart. You know what I mean? When I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh man, like, yeah, you're planning on, if something hits the open market, you have fluidity on your roster that you're not losing a bunch of cap space. You've got guys on the roster that you can move and shake. And I thought that was absolutely awesome. Hey, chat, we're opening it up. Drop the questions. We're almost an hour in. We address offensive side of the football, defensive side of the football. We didn't want to get too much into the Chargers aspect because, man, we got a great show lined up for you guys when it comes to previewing the Chargers and the Raiders, something that I don't think you guys are going to want to miss.
Yes,
All
sir.
70 of you in the chat, man, smash that like button. Go subscribe to the channel, and I'm going to open this up for the chat, man. You guys, this is your time to drop all your questions below, and we're going to address it. So put it, whether it's for Pharoah, whether it's for me, and we'll address it and chop it up, man. So run up them likes, y'all. Go and subscribe to Pharoah. Let's get him to 1,000.
Appreciate that, man. And there's like almost like what 70 in the room. Make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, man. Like, hey, get this man 1,000. I know you guys have seen him putting in work, man. He's been consistently coming out with content, and you got to support people like this who's putting in a lot of work. So go ahead and subscribe. And yeah, man, keep it coming.
James Furpo says, we've always had cold weather and Eastern time games woes. Do you think that the new regime will get it together?
Derek Carr, Derek Carr does need to prove to me a little bit that he can play well in cold weather. At the end of it, we have to respect that. We have to respect that pattern. He hasn't played well in cold weather, but at the same time, we haven't really been a good team later in the year overall. Because the last few years with John Gruden, we had a tendency to collapse the latter half of the season. You know what I mean? Except for last season, we put it together last season, and guess what? John Gruden wasn't there. It's kind of crazy how that works out, but we'll see. That's one of those things that I think that this coaching staff definitely has experience playing in cold weather games. So I'm sure that they're probably going to get the team ready to go. There's a lot of players on the team that played in cold weather games. It's just Derek Carr. He's kind of a little bit shaky. His record overall has kind of been shaking cold weather games. He has a lot to prove in that department. But and I'm saying Derek Carr. I know he's just one player, but obviously he's the quarterback. You know what I mean? He has to play well for this team to even go anywhere. So that's why I'm bringing him up.
Yeah, I think coaching staff has a lot to do with being prepared, setting a mentality for the team going into those cold games. And on the Pivot podcast, I Am Athlete podcast, the players that used to play with Josh McDaniels came out and openly said, like, look, under Josh McDaniels, I've never been more prepared to play a
Mm.
football game than under them. And that speaks volumes when guys are just coming out and just saying that about you and saying, look, I have never been so focused and prepared for a football game in my life except under Josh McDaniels. If you're a Raider fan, that has got to fire you up because
And,
discipline, accountability, all of those things have been woes for the Raiders organization.
and that's very interesting that you brought up, because I've seen the same podcast. I heard him talk about the Josh McDaniels, and it was very interesting because if you remember, Brandon Marshall got traded.
Right.
And it didn't work out in Denver. You know what I mean? We all know what happened in Denver. It didn't work out as a coach for Josh McDaniels. But the fact that the players were like really kind of like they were impressed by Josh McDaniels. They knew it didn't work out. There were some things that didn't work out. He rubbed, and obviously it seems like he's learned from his lesson. You know what I mean? Because he tried to bring the Bill Belichick way, and he's not Bill Belichick, the Patriot way. He's Josh McDaniels. I feel like he's kind of figured that out at this point. We got to see it on Sundays though, but I think that it's very interesting. You hear former players, and it didn't work out, but they were really impressed with Josh McDaniels. As far as like you just said right now, they were really prepared. I think he specifically was talking about. I remember he told Brandon Marshall to make sure to be ready for a certain defense, a certain call, and when you see it, you're gonna do this exact thing, and you're gonna just go upfield, and it's gonna be a touchdown. And he said that he's seen it. I think I'm paraphrasing here, but Brandon Marshall seen it, but he missed it. He missed the call. He did something else, and Josh McDaniels let him have it or whatever. But he said it was so crazy that everything that Josh McDaniels said it was going to happen did happen, which is crazy.
Mm.
So that's something that gets me excited, because you put that with Derek Carr and Adams and this defense and
You
the
got the right
Crosby.
guys. You got the right
Woo!
ingredients. That's what's
Man,
exciting.
come
Yeah, you
on.
got the right ingredients. You got smart, intelligent football players who love ball. You know what I mean? And when you merge that with a mind like a Josh McDaniels, this offense has a lot of potential. And right now it's potential. But I have this feeling that we're going to see something special when it comes to the Raiders offense. GA Patriot says, Pharoah, what are your thoughts about moving Cleve Farrell to defensive tackle?
I like it, but he just looks so stiff as a player.
Yeah, he does, bro.
It just, when I see him on the field, I don't know if you guys, anybody could co-sign this as well. And Raider Ray, I know you probably could see the same thing, because I know you watch game tape, you watch film. He just seems so stiff as a player. Like it just, man, like Mike Mayock, John Gruden, and Mike Mayock said something. I seen something like early on when he might have been just trying to just hype up Cleveland Farrell early on. But I remember where Mike Mayock said they had Cleveland Farrell and Nick Bosa on the. Are you serious? Come on, don't lie like that. Come
There's
on,
a reason
man.
why they're not coaching. There's a reason why he's not a GM no
How do
more.
you have Nick Bosa and Cleve Farrell on the same level? Like
You don't know what you're watching. That's what
that's
it
one of
is.
those that's one of those answers where you kind of just be like, you know what, we had him high on our board. We're not going to disclose that information. Don't lie. Like, come on,
Don't
you
lie.
just insulting our intelligence, because we can see a player like Nick Bosa from a mile away. Like, man, this dude's the
He's
truth.
special. Yeah.
You know, Farrell, nothing against him, but he just was drafted too high, and it just seems like he's just too stiff as a player. Like, I don't see that type of wiggle. I don't see that bendiness. I just don't see it. I mean, we'll see, because he said he dropped some weight. You know, maybe different coaching staff. You know what I mean? They're going to be creative. They're kind of trying to use his talents. We'll see, man.
To me on
Hey, he
film,
seemed like a good guy. He seemed like a good guy. I'm rooting for him, but
yeah. No, I'm rooting for everybody that's on the Raiders organization, even when they depart from here to go out and have success. For me, on film, it's Cleve Farrell's size. He's playing this game too much. In the Raiders last year, they asked him to gain weight, lose weight, and to play a multitude of positions. And when you get a young guy like this, man, find a home for him and let him grind at that.
you
Excuse me,
seen the
let him
pattern
grind
here.
at that position.
You
Yeah,
seen
there
the
is a
pattern
pattern.
here.
No, it's a pattern. Yeah,
Alex Leatherwood, Cleve Farrell, like they're messing
right.
up these players, man. They're not like focusing and be like, hey, look, we're
Jonathan
gonna.
Abram, like asking him to go cover, put him in the box. I mean, moving all of these guys all over the place. It was even in Henry Ruggs' rookie year. They were asking him to line up at X and moving him inside and making him learn a multitude of positions. And man, it was historically that entire regime. However, back to Cleve Farrell, He doesn't have the size to be an interior guy, maybe on a third down, but these guards are too big. They play really good. They just bully Klee on the inside. You move him out to the outside. He doesn't have the pass rush to get home to the quarterback on a consistent basis. So when I'm looking at his game on film, he sets a good edge. Okay. He's a decent, he's an average to a slightly above average run defender. Okay. It just depends on what Klee you're getting on Sunday.
Mhm.
And it's another guy who I think he thinks a lot. And I think that has to do with the former Raiders regime is they've got these guys overthinking. I was watching Klee's film and he had a straight lane over into the quarterback to get a sack, but he literally goes out of his way to engage in a block with the running back. So it's just like these guys are just thinking too much and they're making the game a lot more difficult than just going out there pinning their ears back and playing football. Daniel Kim
It's
says, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it sucks because sometimes like we, as fans, we kind of look at what the result at the end of the day. We look at like what happens on Sunday, who's winning, who's losing, who's the cause of the loss. But it's not that simple sometimes. Like at the end of the day, like if you have a coaching staff that's not putting you in a position to succeed, if they're telling you to gain weight, they're telling you to lose weight, like you just mentioned, you know what I mean? They're like literally they're ruining these players. You know what I mean? Like, and then on top of that, like they already have a lot of pressure because you're overdrafting them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Alex and Klee, both of them.
you're overdrafting them. You know what I mean? You're putting a lot of pressure on them. It's just like, damn, like it's not even their fault.
Daniel says, much props, Ray. When the nation shows up in your chat and talks ball, you're doing something right. Keep grinding, brother. Pause. Nah, man, we like to bring that aspect over here on this channel, man. We like to talk ball. We like to, if Pharoah can make me smarter, if I can make Pharoah smarter, if we can help the nation raise their IQ as a fan base and come over here and just learn and grow, that's what this is about, man. We just like to keep it clean and about football.
Facts, 100%.
Let's see here. Courtney says, Pharoah just sub. Salute, Ray. Raider Nation, what's
Hey,
up?
I appreciate that, brother. Appreciate it.
It says when the bots show up, then you're legit. Yeah, we've been having
Sure.
that. We probably had that pop up. So my moderators take care of that if that happened tonight. I got to speed up and get to these chats, man. You guys are killing it. Do you guys believe that any of the BS the media is spewing about us being 21st best team in the league, finishing fourth in the West? Would there be reasoning behind that?
Look, I think what the media is going to do, they're going to go with the easy answer. It's easy for them to say that the Raiders are going to be the last in the division, and I like that. I don't want us to think that we're the top team right now. I want us to have a chip on our shoulder. I want us to earn everything that we get. Because at the end of the day, the Raiders have, overall the last decade, 15, 20 years, we haven't been that team. And we just got to go out on Sundays and prove them right. And I think it's a good spot to be in. This is a great spot. It's under the radar. Everybody's all like just discounting us. At the end of the day, even though we have all the talent, there's some piece, this team could definitely get better in the talent department compared to the other teams. But I feel like we do got some big pieces in key positions. And I love the coaching staff. Don't worry about that, man. That's why you're here, man. That's why you're here to hear the truth from Raider Ray and myself and all the Raider content creators and the beat writers and everybody that talks about the Raiders. Because the general meet, like when I don't even turn on ESPN. Like when I hear ESPN talk about the Raiders, like I'm not getting anything. I'm not getting good information. I know that because they're not going to really look into the team. They're going to talk about something from like 10 years ago or
Something
what I mean? Like some that's not relevant to the team. I'm like, what are you talking about? What are you actually watching? You're just because at the end of the day, they got to talk about like the whole damn near the whole league, and they're gonna talk about the Cowboys and all that. We don't have to worry about that. At the end of the day, we just got to worry about what's gonna happen on Sunday, and we're gonna bring that to you soon, Tuesday. Be on the lookout.
Yeah, and for me, when you're talking about fourth place in the AFC West, I want to give a take that I've not heard anybody talk about, man. But really, everybody in this division, with how good this entire division is, everybody's competing for fourth place. Everybody. It wouldn't surprise me if any of these teams wound up in fourth. It wouldn't surprise me if any of these teams could find a way to edge it out into first. When you look at the depth of this entire division, man, all these guys have the capability to go out there and win football games. And based upon injuries, based upon the teams catching the right momentum at the right time, all these teams can go out there and win the division. The Raiders could finish first, right? The Raiders could go out there and put their foot on the division. The Chiefs, really good regular season team game. Andy Reid, a phenomenal coach, puts his players in positions to win. He could go out there and win first place. The Chargers, they're loaded with talent. You know what I mean? And look, I hate our division. I hate the teams in our division, but I'm always going to keep it real with y'all. Like,
Right.
these are good football teams with good football players. You got the Denver Broncos. They got some pieces on the defense. If Russell Wilson can get it figured out, they got offensive line issues. The Denver Broncos don't really worry me personally. But let's face it, they're a good football team too. It's not like they're scrubs. You know what I mean? It's not like they're a losing football team, if that makes sense. They're at least going to be batting 500, right? So a lot of these guys are going to be competing for this division. This division to me it's going to be a dogfight all the way down to the end. Former
Yeah.
Steelers and
Thanks.
ESPN analysis Ryan Clark says, I'm looking for Raiders Derek Carr to have the 07 like breakout season we saw from Tom Brady when he got Randy Moss and they went 17-0.
I seen that too. I seen that, and I love it, man. Hey, we've been calling it all off season. You see how the national media is kind of late to the party. You see how
Oh
that
yeah.
works.
Oh
You
yeah.
know what I mean? Ryan Clark talks to Devontae Adams, and like, look what he's saying now. You know what I mean? I'm not
Exactly.
saying that he's ever took shots at Derek Carr, but at the same time, like, the national media is always going to be late to the party, but we're going to be here to give you the truth right from the beginning. And at the end of the day, we've been calling it. We've been like, man, like this coaching staff, the way they're being put together early on in the offseason, to the player acquisitions, to the talent on the field, the fact that Derek Carr hasn't played with the offensive play caller like McDaniels and then the Devontae Adams and so on and so forth. At the end of the day, like we've been calling it early on, and I'm not surprised. Hey, that's cool that he's saying that. But at the end of the day, we kind of know what's coming. And I think, and I know I'm talking a little bit of shit early on, but I'm just keeping it real. Like, let's be honest. Like, come on. Like, we on Sundays, Derek Carr is gonna be putting on a show. I'll be surprised if Derek Carr doesn't put on a big season. I'm gonna be,
Oh, me too.
man.
Me
Yeah,
too.
I'm gonna be real shocked.
Me too. Salute Ray and Pharoah. Fill in the blank. We'll beat the Chargers if.
If our D line dominates their own line.
Mm.
I
Mm.
think that's going to be a big key. Well, you know, I don't want to get into the preview. We're going to get into
Yeah.
all that, but
Yeah. I should have
we're
probably avoided that. I should have probably avoided that.
but Sean, that was a great question. That's a great question. But yeah, we'll beat the Chargers, but
We'll
it's
we'll
a lot of
we'll
different.
address that
Yeah.
in a future video on Tuesday. Question: Feel the Raiders are one injury away to really hurting themselves at right tackle and DB, weakest spots on our team. What you guys think? Well, when you look at any team around the National Football League, if they take a major injury, whether it be the quarterback, the right tackle, a key aspect to any of their rosters, there's a term that gets thrown around loosely, next man up. But an all pro player isn't just easily replaceable about next man up, right? It's not like a Sam Webb is going to step in for Nate Hobbs, and next thing you know, he's playing at Nate Hobbs's level or above. I mean, situations like that are so far and few in between that actually happen around the National Football League. So, Jack, to be honest, every team in the National Football Way is one injury away from having this discussion. We could look at injuries all that we want, but right now the Raiders are actually relatively healthy moving into the season. So let's just kind of focus on that.
Unless you're the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, no kidding, bro. No
Man,
kidding, bro.
that team is stacked. But yeah, man, at the end of the day, like the teams that win the Super Bowl, obviously they're talented, they're good, everything is going right as far as coaching staff, the players playing well, but it's also a little luck too. You got to be healthy.
It says, who's getting the first touchdown of the season?
Ooh, good. I mean, the obvious answer, I'm gonna say Darren Waller.
Mm,
Darren Waller. Darren Waller.
little red zone target, you think?
Darren Waller or Mac Hollins.
Mac Hollins?
The obvious answer is going to be Devontae Adams. I'm not going for it. I don't
Nah.
care. I'm gonna say
Yeah, they were
Mac
trying to
Hollins.
suck you into that one.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely going to be. I feel like Waller, obviously, because his size. But hey, Mac Hollins is 6'5". He's a big receiver, and you got to imagine the defense attention is going to be on the Renfros and the Adams and the Waller. So I could see a Hollins getting a touchdown early, or I'm gonna let you. I have some other guys in my mind too, but I'm gonna let you answer.
I got one. I'm going to go one that nobody's going to say. I'm going to go Foster Moreau. I'm going to say they get down into the red zone. I think they spread everybody out. You know what I mean? Attention's going to Devontae, Hunter, Darren. They're all worried about that. And then you just get Foster Moreau attacking the depth of this defense. So I'm going to go Foster Moreau as a little under the radar candidate to get the first touchdown.
I could see that, or Josh Jacobs.
Brandon Bolden. Watch it be somebody like that. You know what I
You know what I
mean?
mean? Amir Abdullah.
Yeah, a little check down to the running back. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay.
exactly.
I think our defensive scheme is being bought into by the players. Look, we got an INT from a receiver playing at safety. Yeah, that was nice. Isaiah Zuber, he really stepped up. Now let's be real, bro. It was a horrendous throw by the quarterback, a horrendous decision. And Isaiah Zuber, kudos to him. He was in the right place at the right time, went out and made a play. Uh,
He's
but
on
no,
the practice
I like.
squad, right?
Yep, he's on the practice squad, so I do like that. He's actually a pretty quick guy too. But no, we've seen that out of New England, right? They took their depth wide receivers and they've put them in at safety before on obvious passing situations when they know that the defense has to take a deep shot to stay in the game. So that's also a fun little twist that I've seen the Patriots run before that has transitioned over. And look, Raider Nation, I know you guys hate to hear that. You guys hate to hear about this Patriot way and it popping up on film for the Raiders, but you have to look. If I'm a manager of a company and I developed a company that had a bunch of success and then I transition over to another company, am I just going to completely switch up my formula of success just because it's a new building? Nah, like there's going to be things that he did over in New England that worked and established a good franchise, and that's what you want. That's why you make a hire like this. So it's not a bad thing. It's not saying like, oh, the Patriot way is the new Raider way. Like, you don't have to look at it that way. You know what I mean? With any
Yeah.
other hiring, why aren't we ever talking about that? You know what I mean? When a head coach goes to another head coach, and it's just okay to throw that term around. You know, it's I don't take that as a negative like a lot of Raider Nation takes it.
I'm not gonna lie, like when McDaniels got hired, I did cringe. When
Oh
McDaniels,
yeah,
I cringed a lot. I'm like, damn, the Patriots. Come on, man. We don't. I'd rather beat the Patriots than have anybody join us from the Patriots. But
bro. I feel the same way, but he's proved it to me. That's the thing. Like when I remember watching that first press conference and I was like, oh, bro. Like it just felt like corporate, LLC
right,
that rolled into the Raiders organization. And I'm like, oh, here we go. Because with Gruden, it felt a little Raiderish, right?
yeah,
Everybody's always knocking the Raiders. He just had that charisma. It's Chucky. He's back on the sidelines
right, right,
and all of that. I bought into it, right? I bought into
right.
all that mystique, and I drank the Kool-Aid. But with Josh McDaniels came, I was like, oh, bro. But look, he's proved it. That's why I like it. You know what I mean? He went out and made the moves that John and Mike Mayock were afraid to make, or not that they were afraid to make, but they failed. Right? They went and got. Go ahead.
I was gonna say Dave Z's proved it. Dave
Yeah,
Z's proved
no,
it.
facts. I
Dave
think
Z's proved it.
he's got to be in conversation this season if the Raiders season goes the way it is. Like you're talking about like a GM candidate of the year because I
Yeah.
mean he's even young too. You know what I mean? Like
If we win the division, yes, for sure. I mean, but if we make the playoffs, because I think that the GM of the year that award is based off the regular season. I think they kind of wrap it up as far as the voting goes. I might be wrong, but it's based off the regular season how that season goes. But if we win the division, for sure, I you got to believe. I mean, or if we go, it's kind of hard to say because we're in one of we're probably arguably the toughest division in football. So if we go like 13-3 and we don't win a division or you know what I mean, not 13-3, like 13-4 or 12-5, 12, we improve from last year, and the fact that it's kind of hard to say. But yeah, I think if we win a division, you can safely say that I think Dave Z deserves that award for sure.
oh, fact, and especially a guy that nobody ever talks about is Champ Kelly. You know, the assistant GM, a guy who's really
Mm,
good at finding UDFA's, and you talk about Alex Leatherwood getting involved with Chicago. You know, who's to say? They say that they tried trading him to every team. You know, with Champ Kelly's good relationship with Chicago, who's to say that they didn't make that call and Chicago's like, hey, look, to help you guys out, we're going to put in a waiver claim for Alex Leatherwood. So he's not going to get past, say, I'm just going to throw out a number, say they're eighth on waiver claims. They're going to say, hey, look, we're going to put a claim in on waiver claims. We're going to eat that contract. We don't want to give up any draft capital for him. But what we're going to do, we'll take that contract on, right? And we'll help you guys out in that situation. You know, who's to say Champ Kelly didn't do that, which is why the Raiders were okay with releasing him, knowing that, hey, look, once he gets to eighth, Chicago is going to pick it up and we can kind of move on from there. So it's just those relationships that they have throughout the league that's really interesting. It's really unique and they're extremely professional, dude. The ability to create trades and and work out these deals, and to say that he's probably not lost on a contract yet. Now, these players have to go out there and prove it. You know what I'm saying? But these contracts, the way that they're structured, the way that they're laid out, just kudos to Dave Ziegler and Champ Kelly.
That's why I said Dave Z's proved it. For McDaniel so far, I've seen what's the preseason product, but at the end of the day, it all matters in the regular season. And I like what I've seen in the preseason. I feel like they were well coached. It seemed like they didn't really get a lot of penalties as a team. But I want to see it on Sundays. I want to see it in the regular season. I want to see how it looks. I want to see when we play a game against KC.
Right.
How many times have we played KC and like Andy Reid's out coaching us? It
Right.
just, whether it's defensive coordinator off, it just doesn't matter. Like he's out coaching us. There's a player wide open, and I don't think that's going to happen this year. I think it's going to be a little more. It's gonna be a different story, and we're gonna find out early on because I think we play 3 out of like the first 5 weeks. I think we played
Yeah.
Denver Chargers and the KC Chiefs. So
Yeah.
we're gonna find out early on like where we stand and how we kind of like we compare to those teams.
Yeah, dude, it's an aspect that I'm so fired up about because we've seen as Raider fans over the years just us getting completely dominated when it comes to coaching. Now,
Mhm.
yeah, there was a lack of talent on the field, but it really came down to X's and O's and schemes, and especially by KC. KC exploited everything that Paul Gunther was ever running. You know what I mean? Blowing them out 48 points, 42 points, stretching the field, just made this organization look sorry. And it's like Josh McDaniels, Patrick Graham, I think those days hopefully are behind us. Not Dirty says, was getting rid of Leatherface the Patriot way?
Hey, you know what though? I think Dave Z, he doesn't care. Yeah,
Mm-mm.
I think and this is early on. I'm gonna go early on in the offseason. I'm gonna go as far as when Dave Z and McDaniels were interviewing with Mark Davis and the type of impression they got from Mark Davis. They were impressed by Mark Davis. The fact that because they were impressed by obviously the Raider facility, state of the art. You heard Bill Belichick saying this is the
Mm-hmm.
best facilities he's ever seen in his life. But they were impressed with Mark Davis and how like committed he was to winning. And I feel like Mark Davis, you can kind of say that he hasn't been that guy where he's trying to get in the coach's way or try to be GM. He's kind of like, I want to hire the right guys and I want to let them do their job. And I think that's what kind of like attracted Dave Z and McDaniels to the job because they know that Mark Davis committed to winning because at the end of the day, like the Raiders are in a new city, new market. They're gonna have to win early to gain that new fan base. I mean, the Raiders are worldwide, but at the end of the day, they're in a new city and a brand new stadium, and they got to pay for that. So I feel like Dave Z he's been given all the power to do whatever he wants to do. Dave Z
Yeah.
and McDaniels, they've been given all the power. So if it means cutting a play, they have no problem cutting a player from a previous regime. But but as you can see, they signed all their draft picks and including a number of undrafted free agents. They're guys. They have no problem cutting the past regime players. And then some of the players that bought in, guys like Nate Hobbs and guys like, obviously the obvious players, they're going to stay. But I'm just pointing this out because they don't have a problem cutting a player that they didn't really draft or sign. They don't have to do that.
And then in that same note, they don't have any commitment to him. But you look at Derek Carr, Hunter Renfrow, Max Crosby, and they go out there and they hand these guys extensions. You know what I mean? So it goes both ways. We're not tied to you, but if you're a good football player and we see it on film, we want you around regardless if we drafted you or not. Like if you're a good football player, you're going to play for the Raiders. I love that. It's not just, hey, let's just move on from Derek Carr. Let's get out of Max Crosby's contract and let's blow this thing up and start back over. That wasn't the case. And the Mark Davis point, I heard Hugh Jackson come out this week, and he was saying how the Carson Palmer trade to give up a first round, that had nothing to do with Hugh Jackson. He said that was a complete Mark Davis move. And I think when Mark Davis first took over this organization, when his dad died, he was making those hands-on decisions until he realized it was setting this organization back. And kudos to Mark Davis for learning that and then coming out openly saying, hey, look, I've made mistakes. I need to put people in position to go out there and make football decisions for me. And that's what he's done. You know what I mean? So huge hats off to him. Regardless of John Gruden failing, Jack Del Rio failing, Mark Davis did try to make the best hire at the time. Like at
That's
the time,
interesting.
yeah.
That's interesting, not to cut you off. That's interesting that he said it because I thought it was, Hugh Jackson who was kinda like when Al Davis died, there was no guy in between the head coach and because Al Davis was literally making the decisions. He was the final
Mhm,
decision maker.
mhm.
So I thought that Hugh Jackson was like, "Hey, Imma get a guy that I coached, AKA Carlson Palmer. He knows very well. They're trying to make the playoffs." So that's interesting that Mark Davis made that call. That's interesting.
Yeah, yeah, Hugh Jackson said he was like, "Look, I was all in with Jason Campbell, and when he went down, he's like, it was bad because he felt like that team was special, that they just had a different kind of fight in them, and especially under Jason Campbell." And he said, "Look, I love Carson Palmer, and that's my guy, but going out and trading for him wasn't my decision. It's not what I wanted to do." And he said it was 110% Mark Davis. I thought it was interesting, right?
Hmm.
And yeah, I thought it was interesting.
Mhm,
We're gonna take a few questions before we wrap this thing up, guys, because we got a good show coming for you guys.
mhm,
We got a good show. So I seen GA talk about AJ Cole is the secret weapon, and in special teams is a huge asset. You look back last year, and you can make that point that the Raiders probably didn't make the playoffs if it wasn't for special teams. You got the heads up play by Hunter Renfro stopping the fake field goal. You get a Tyron Johnson week 17 creating a fumble, getting the Raiders in position to go put
mhm.
points on the board to ultimately win that football game. Special teams is a huge and crucial aspect to winning football games in the National Football League, which is why I think this year on this roster, you've seen so many guys make the roster because of their ability to contribute to special teams.
Yeah, and I wanna go back to you mentioned T. Billy. I think he's a guy that got better. He
Oh
got
yeah,
better.
yeah,
He got better as a route runner. He looks like a better player. I think he needs to be better at finishing the play, but, obviously, he's been making plays all training camp. At the end of the day, he's not gonna be asked a lot. He's just gonna have to, make those wide open, you know what I mean, plays. Like I said, these role players, they're gonna have an easy time because all they have to do is just make the easy catch.
right. Facts. Look, everybody's saying, "Yo, hear from Andy's. Hit the like button."
Salute to
James
Andy.
Furbo. Hey, you guys, man. There's 70 of you guys in here, man. If it's your first time, subscribe. Ray and Pharaoh live show. Go over to Pharaoh, subscribe to him, subscribe to Raider Ray. We're dropping content weekly,
Yes,
doing
sir.
live shows weekly. So we're here to put out the best content for the Raider Nation. So if it's your first time here, I encourage you to do that. You guys, thank you guys for pulling up, man. And when this live stream ends, don't let it be the end of the discussion. Go over into the video after it uploads and renders, and leave comments there because it helps the YouTube algorithm and it helps experiences when we do live shows moving forward. It just brings more of the nation together and more
Mhm.
people, more eyes find the show. So that would be a huge, huge help to me and to Pharaoh. If you guys after the video go in and comment and smash the like button as well. Pharaoh, do you got any closing statements?
Yeah, man, it's gonna be a lot to look forward to. Like Ray kind of mentioned, we're gonna have a preview show on Tuesday. We haven't set a time yet, but just be on the lookout for that. It's gonna be a good show. We're gonna be talking about Raiders. Hey, Raider season's here.
This year,
Raiders
bro.
Chargers. It's gonna be a big game. It's gonna be a lot to talk about. Man, I appreciate you for having me on. Salute to the chat. Y'all showed up today. Make sure to on your way out, make sure, like he said, like the video. The algorithm is real. Like it really helps out. So make sure you like the video, subscribe, and man, I appreciate you for having me on, man. And if y'all haven't already, man, check me out. Fair NFL, social media, same thing. PHAROAH NFL on social media. But most importantly, if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to my channel as well. And appreciate you, Ray.
Yep.
He has it up there right there for you to make it easy for y'all. But a great show. But we'll have a lot to talk about, man, on Tuesday.
Awesome. Yeah, you guys, he said it the best, man. Stay tuned. Tuesday, we're bringing a banger of a show, and you're not going to want to miss it. So, everybody hit those notification icon bell and follow us on IG. We'll keep you up to date on a time as we inch closer to Tuesday. Raider Nation, I appreciate you guys so much. You guys have showed up. Everybody's still saying great show, guys. Thank you, Pharaoh. Thank you, Ray. I appreciate all the
Appreciate
love,
y'all.
man. We all appreciate you very much. So, God bless each and every single one of y'all. And until Tuesday, man. Just win, baby.
Peace.